Ambassador Zara Chen walked through the great halls of the Galactic Concordat. Her soft shoes made no sound on the smooth crystal floor. Around her, beings from hundreds of worlds moved with purpose. Some had 4 arms, others had tentacles instead of legs. A few floated in the air using wings that sparkled like diamonds. But they all shared one thing in common. They thought they knew everything about humans. The Concordat building reached high into the sky of Nexus Prime. Through the tall windows, Zara could see ships from across the galaxy landing and taking off. Each one carried diplomats, traders, and scientists. For 5,000 years, this place had been the center of galactic peace. Today, that peace was about to end. Zara entered the main council chamber. The room was huge, with seats for representatives from all 847 member species. Most of the seats were filled today. Word had spread quickly about what the Vorthak were planning to announce. Everyone wanted to see what would happen to the humans. The peaceful little humans, Zara heard someone whisper. She smiled but kept walking to her seat. It was marked with Earth's symbol, a simple blue and green circle. Such a small, quiet symbol compared to the war banners and fierce emblems of other species. The Vorthak delegation sat across from her. They were a proud warrior race, tall and covered in thick armor that looked like it had grown from their skin. Their leader, War Chief Thrax, stood nearly 3 meters tall. His 4 arms each ended in claws that could tear through metal. Beside him sat representatives from 11 other warrior species. Together they called themselves the Vorthak Hegemony. For the past 100 years, the hegemony had been growing stronger. They had taken over 12 star systems. They enslaved any species they found too weak to fight back. The Concordat always complained, but never did anything real to stop them. After all, what could they do? The hegemony had the strongest military in the galaxy. The session will now begin, announced Speaker Vex, a tall being with skin like living metal. War Chief Thrax has requested to make a statement. Thrax stood up. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. Members of the Concordat, we come before you today to announce our final solution to the galaxy's weakness problem. The chamber grew quiet. Even the translators seemed to whisper. For too long, weak species have held back the strong. They waste resources on art and philosophy. They fill space with their useless colonies. They make the galaxy soft. Thrax's forearms spread wide. We will clean the galaxy. We will remove the weak so the strong can grow. A few representatives shifted in their seats. No one spoke up. They never did when the Vorthak made their threats. We begin with the weakest species of all, Thrax continued. His small black eyes found Zara. The humans gave up war 5,000 years ago. They have no weapons, no armies, no courage. They are exactly what is wrong with this galaxy. Murmurs filled the chamber. Some aliens looked at Zara with pity. Others seemed embarrassed for her. A few even nodded, agreeing with the war chief. In one galactic standard week, the hegemony will begin removing human colonies from space. Any humans who resist will be eliminated. Those who surrender will be relocated to work camps. This is not a request. This is a statement of fact. Thrax sat down. The chamber buzzed with quiet conversations. Speaker Vex looked uncomfortable. Does the human representative wish to respond? Zara stood up slowly. She was much smaller than Thrax, barely reaching his chest even when he was sitting. Her voice was soft and calm. I thank War Chief Thrax for his direct communication. Humanity appreciates knowing where we stand. Some aliens looked surprised. They expected her to beg or cry or make angry protests. Instead, Zara sounded almost amused. I request one galactic standard week to organize evacuation procedures for our colonies. We will need time to contact our scattered populations and arrange transport. Thrax laughed, a sound like metal being crushed. See, they do not even try to fight. They accept their fate like the weak creatures they are. We are a practical people, Zara replied. We see no point in making threats we cannot back up. More laughter came from the hegemony section. Other aliens looked away, embarrassed by the display. A few species that had been friendly with humans over the centuries seemed genuinely sad. 1 week, Thrax agreed. After that, any human found in space will be destroyed. Understood, Zara said. She gathered her simple bag and walked toward the exit. As she passed other representatives, some reached out to touch her arm or whisper apologies. She smiled and nodded to each one. Ambassador Kelvin from the Altair Republic stopped her at the door. His blue skin was pale with worry. Zara, my people are sorry. If we could help. You have been good friends, Kelvin. Remember that friendship in the days to come. Something in her tone made him step back. For just a moment, Kelvin saw something different in her eyes, something that reminded him of old stories about humans from long ago. But then Zara smiled her gentle smile and the moment passed. Outside the chamber, Zara walked to a private communication booth. These small rooms were scattered throughout the building for delegates to make private calls home. She sealed the door and activated the privacy shields. Then she pulled out a device that looked like an old-fashioned Earth compass. The device was covered in dust. It had not been used in 5,000 years. Zara wiped it clean and pressed a sequence of buttons. The device hummed to life, its display showing coordinates scattered across the galaxy. Every dot represented a human world. Every world was about to receive the same message. Zara spoke 3 words into the device. Protocol Omega, activated. Far across the galaxy, the message traveled faster than any known communication system. It reached Earth first, where it was received in a bunker buried 5 kilometers beneath the North American continent. The bunker had been sealed since the Great Peace began. Now ancient computers awakened from their long sleep. The message reached New Terra, a farming world where millions of humans grew food for half the galaxy. In hidden chambers beneath grain silos and processing plants, weapon systems powered up for the first time in millennia. It reached Harmony Station, a research facility studying alien cultures. The station's true purpose had been forgotten by everyone except a few keepers of old secrets. Those keepers now opened sealed orders that had waited 5,000 years. On Peaceful Harbor, a trading post where humans helped alien merchants conduct business, cargo containers marked with ancient symbols began to unlock. Inside were not trade goods but equipment that had been carefully maintained and waiting for this day. The message reached 847 human worlds, stations, and outposts. On each one, people who had lived quiet lives as farmers, teachers, artists, and merchants received coded instructions. They had always known this day might come. Their grandparents had prepared them. Their great-grandparents had prepared them. For 5,000 years, every human born had been prepared for the day the peace ended. Back on Nexus Prime, Zara Chen walked through the station's commercial district. Aliens from across the galaxy shopped, ate, and conducted business. Many had heard about the Vorthak announcement. The mood was somber. She stopped at a small restaurant run by a Zilonian family. The owner, Grix, had 3 eyes and skin like smooth green leather. His family had been friends with humans for over a century. Ambassador Chen, Grix said sadly, I heard what happened in the chamber. This is a dark day. Perhaps, Zara said, but darkness often comes before dawn. She ordered a simple meal and sat by herself in a corner booth. While she ate, she watched the news feeds on the restaurant's screens. The announcement was the top story on every channel. Military analysts discussed how quickly the Vorthak could eliminate human resistance. Most agreed it would be over in days, maybe hours. The humans never developed significant military technology, one expert explained. They focused on art, science, and philosophy instead. They have some small patrol ships for keeping trade routes clear of pirates, but nothing that could stand against a real military force. Another expert nodded. Their colonies are mostly agricultural and research facilities. They've never needed defenses because they've never made enemies. In many ways, their peaceful nature was their greatest strength. Now it will be their downfall. Zara continued eating while the experts discussed humanity's fate. None of them mentioned the human colonies at strategic hyperspace junctions. None of them talked about the research stations positioned near every major alien military base. None of them wondered why humans had spread so widely across the galaxy when they only numbered a few billion people. After finishing her meal, Zara paid the bill and left a generous tip. Thank you for your friendship over the years, Grix. Remember it fondly. We will, Grix promised, and we will tell our children about the kind humans we knew. Zara left the restaurant and made her way to the human embassy. It was a small building compared to the grand structures maintained by military powers like the Vorthak. But it was positioned perfectly to monitor all traffic in and out of the station. Inside, her staff was already packing. 23 humans worked at the embassy, handling trade disputes, cultural exchanges, and diplomatic business. Or at least that was what their job description said. Ambassador, called Deputy Marcus Webb, a young man who managed cultural affairs. We've received acknowledgments from all stations. Implementation begins in 72 hours. Good, Zara replied. Has the evacuation story been released? Yes, ma'am. All news networks are reporting that humans are beginning emergency evacuations from outer rim colonies. Ships are being organized to carry refugees to safer systems. Zara nodded. In reality, those ships were moving into attack positions. The refugees were soldiers who had spent their entire lives pretending to be farmers and merchants. The evacuation was the largest military mobilization in galactic history. What about the reaction from other species? Mostly sympathy, Webb reported. Several governments have offered to accept human refugees. The Altair Republic has pledged funds for resettlement. The Crystal Collective is donating ships for transport. Kind of them, Zara said. Send official thanks. Tell them humanity will remember their friendship. That night, Zara stood on her embassy balcony looking out at the stars. Nexus Prime never truly got dark. Ships arrived and departed at all hours, their lights streaking across the sky. Somewhere out there, the Vorthak were preparing their fleets for an easy victory. They had no idea what was coming. 5,000 years ago, humanity had been very different. They were explorers and warriors who spread across their home system like a virus. They fought wars that turned entire planets into glass. They built weapons that could crack moons and ships that moved faster than light itself. Then they met other species and learned they were not alone in the universe. For a brief time, they tried to build an empire like so many others had done. But something happened that changed everything. Humanity learned the true cost of war. It was not the death that changed them. They had seen plenty of death. It was not the destruction. They were experts at destruction. What changed them was meeting species that were genuinely peaceful, who had never known war, who looked at human weapons with horror and sadness. Those species showed humans what they had become, mirror beings who reflected back humanity's true face. And humanity did not like what they saw. So they made a choice. They decided to become better than they were. They sealed their weapons and swore an oath of peace. They turned their war fleets into exploration ships and their soldiers into farmers and teachers. But they were not fools. Peace through strength became humanity's secret motto. They would be peaceful, but they would never be helpless. They spread across the galaxy not as conquerors but as gardeners, planting seeds of human presence on 1,000 worlds. They made friends with every species they met, learned their languages, studied their cultures, and they watched. They listened. They prepared. For 5,000 years, they had been the galaxy's friends. They helped solve disputes between species. They shared technology that improved everyone's lives. They asked for nothing except the right to live in peace. Now someone was threatening that peace. Zara went back inside and sealed the embassy. Tomorrow, she would make her official goodbyes and leave on a transport ship with the last of her staff. Everyone would think the humans were running away in fear. They had no idea the humans were going home to war. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, in chambers that had not seen light for 5,000 years, ancient machines began to wake up. The stone walls were thick enough to stop nuclear bombs. The metal doors had seals that could last 10,000 years. Everything had waited in perfect silence until 3 words traveled from a distant star. Protocol Omega, activated. Dr. Marcus Webb stood in what most people knew as the Historical Preservation Society on Mars. Above ground, it looked like a simple museum where school children came to learn about humanity's past. The exhibit showed old weapons marked with signs that read, "Primitive tools of our barbaric past," and examples of human violence before Enlightenment. But Marcus was not really a museum curator. He pressed his hand against a wall panel that looked like decorative stone. The wall recognized his genetic signature and slid open silently. Behind it lay corridors that stretched deep into the Martian rock. "Computer, activate all systems," Marcus said as he walked down the corridor. "Authorization Webb Marcus. Director level. Omega Protocol confirmed." "Welcome back, Director Webb," replied a voice that had not spoken in 5 millennia. "All systems responding. Current status hibernation protocols complete. All equipment at 100% readiness." Marcus smiled grimly. His grandfather had been the last person to walk these halls when the Great Peace began. His family had guarded the secret through 200 generations. Today the wait was over. The corridor opened into a vast chamber carved from solid rock. Rows of objects filled the space, each one covered by energy fields that kept them in perfect condition. To a child visiting the museum above, they would look like ancient human artifacts. In reality, they were weapons and equipment that could challenge the laws of physics. Marcus walked to a control panel and began entering codes. Around the chamber, the energy fields flickered and died. 5,000 years of dust should have covered everything, but the preservation fields had kept each item as clean as the day it was stored. In the first row sat personal armor that looked like simple black cloth. When activated, it could stop bullets from hitting the wearer and make them invisible to most sensors. In the second row were weapons that looked like metal sticks but could cut through starship hulls. The third row held communication devices that could reach anywhere, in the galaxy, instantly without any chance of being detected. But these were just the small items. Marcus walked to the center of the chamber where a circular platform waited. He stepped onto it and spoke. "Transport to command level." The platform lifted him up through layers of rock to a chamber that was even larger. Here, displays showed every human world in the galaxy. Green lights marked colonies, yellow lights marked trading posts, and red lights marked military installations that officially did not exist. "Report status of all facilities," Marcus ordered. "Facility Alpha 7 on New Terra. Active. Fusion reactors online. Defensive systems powered. Estimated time to full combat readiness 6 hours. Facility Beta 12 on Harmony Station. Active. Shipyard operational. Fleet assets powering up. Estimated time to deployment 4 hours. Facility Gamma 1 on Peaceful Harbor active. Arsenal inventory complete. Strike teams assembling. Estimated time to mission ready 2 hours. The reports continued for 20 minutes. Every human world had hidden facilities like this one. Every human colony had weapons and soldiers that the galaxy had never suspected existed. For 5,000 years, humanity had been preparing for the day someone threatened their peace. Marcus activated a communication channel that reached every human commander in the galaxy. "All stations, this is Control. Protocol Omega is in effect. You know your missions. You know what's at stake. Humanity has chosen peace for 5 millennia. Today we choose war, far across the galaxy." Commander Sarah Martinez received the message in her office on the ship Humanity's Folly. To anyone visiting, it looked like a museum piece orbiting Earth. Tour groups came aboard to see how humans used to build warships before they became civilized. The guides always pointed out how primitive and crude the old human technology was compared to modern alien designs. Sarah had given those tours herself for the past 30 years. She would smile and explain to alien visitors how humans had been so backward and violent. She showed them the ship's weapons and described them as barely functional. Relics from our shameful past. What she never mentioned was that every primitive weapon was actually more advanced than anything the modern galaxy possessed. The ship's armor looked simple, but it could absorb energy blasts that would vaporize a mountain. The engines appeared outdated, but they could push the ship faster than any vessel in known space. "Computer and museum protocols," Sarah commanded. "Begin combat preparations." "Acknowledged, Commander." Activating true systems. The ship began to change. Panels that looked like they were falling apart revealed themselves to be sophisticated displays. Weapons that seemed barely held together shifted and realigned into configurations that would make alien engineers weep. The bridge, which had appeared cramped and primitive, expanded as hidden sections opened. Most importantly, the ship's crew stopped pretending to be museum guides and revealed their true nature as the most experienced military force in galactic history. "Status report," Sarah ordered as her officers took their real positions. "All systems optimal," reported her first officer. "Weapons charged and ready. Shields at maximum. Crew at battle stations." "Communication from Earth Command coming in," announced the communications officer. Sarah nodded. On screen, the image of Admiral Rebecca Stone appeared. She was an old woman now, but her eyes still held the fire that had made her humanity's greatest military leader. Officially, she had died 20 years ago. In reality, she had been commanding humanity's secret defense forces from a hidden base in Earth's ocean depths. "Sarah, good to see you're ready," Admiral Stone said. "Intelligence reports indicate the Vorthak fleet will reach Sol system in 18 hours. Are you prepared to give them a proper welcome?" "More than prepared," Sarah replied. "The museum piece is ready to remind the galaxy what human warships can really do." "Good. Remember, we're not trying to conquer anyone. We just need to make it very clear what happens to anyone who threatens human civilians." Similar conversations were happening across the galaxy. Captain Elena Vasquez activated the true systems of her cargo hauler Peaceful Dreams. For decades, she had carried trade goods between human and alien worlds. Other ship captains often joked about her oversized cargo holds and excessive power systems. They thought humans just built things inefficiently. They never realized that those cargo holds contained enough firepower to level a city, and those excessive power systems could charge weapons that bent space-time itself. "All crew, this is the captain," Elena announced. "Stop pretending to be merchants. Time to remember what we really are." Throughout her ship, people who had spent years acting as cargo handlers and engineers revealed military training that put elite alien forces to shame. They moved with precision that came from constant practice in secret. Every human civilian ship in space was doing the same thing. On the surface of New Terra, farmer Jake Morrison walked into his grain storage facility. His family had grown food for alien worlds for 3 generations. His neighbors all thought he was just a simple man who loved working the soil. Jake pressed his hand against what looked like a maintenance panel. The panel scanned his genetics and voice patterns. "Jake Morrison, Colonial Defense Commander. Authorization Omega 77. "Welcome, Commander," the facility computer replied. "Defensive systems ready for activation." Beneath Jake's grain silos lay a fortress that could withstand direct attacks from orbital bombardment. Hidden in his farming equipment were weapons that could shoot down spaceships from the ground. His irrigation system was actually a network of tunnels connecting to similar hidden bases across the planet. Most shocking of all, Jake's neighbors were not really neighbors. Every farm family on New Terra was actually a military unit. They had grown real food and lived real lives, but they had never forgotten their true purpose. "All families report to positions," Jake broadcast on a frequency that did not officially exist. "Time to protect the harvest." Dr. Emily Carter worked at the Harmony Research Station, where humans studied alien cultures and languages. She was known across the galaxy as an expert on xenobiology. Universities competed to have her speak at their conferences. Her research papers were read by millions of beings who wanted to understand how different species could live together in peace. What those millions did not know was that Emily's real specialty was not friendship between species. Her true expertise was in the psychology of warfare. "Computer, activate Black Files protocol," Emily commanded in her private laboratory. Black Files activated. All data restrictions removed. Emily's laboratory changed from a place of peaceful research to a center for psychological warfare that could break enemy morale without firing a shot. For 5,000 years, she and others like her had been studying every species in the galaxy. They knew which fears kept aliens awake at night. They knew which cultural symbols would terrify them. They knew exactly how to make proud warriors doubt themselves. "Begin transmission of Package Alpha to all Vorthak frequencies," Emily ordered. Package Alpha transmitted. Psychological impact estimated at 73% effectiveness. Across Vorthak space, warriors began receiving messages that seemed innocent, but carried deeper meanings that struck at the core of their beliefs. Images that reminded them of childhood nightmares. Sounds that made their battle-hardened veterans feel sudden fear. Stories that made them question whether they were truly as strong as they believed. The humans were not just awakening their weapons. They were awakening their understanding of how to win wars without destroying everything they wanted to protect. On Earth itself, President Michael Zhang stood in an office that looked exactly like what people expected from the leader of a peaceful species. Simple furniture, artwork from across the galaxy, and windows that looked out on gardens where children played. But when he spoke the activation codes, hidden panels revealed screens showing military operations across known space. The garden outside was actually a carefully disguised command center, where humanity's best strategic minds had been waiting for this moment. "All commanders, this is President Zhang. For 5,000 years we have kept the peace because we remembered the cost of war. Today someone has decided our peace was weakness. They are about to learn the difference between choosing peace and being forced into it." Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Human agricultural worlds were revealing defensive systems that could stop invasion fleets. Human research stations were activating sensors that could track every enemy ship in their regions of space. Human trading posts were opening weapon stores that had been disguised as cargo containers. Most importantly, human civilians throughout alien space were revealing themselves to be intelligence operatives who had spent lifetimes gathering information about potential enemies. The galaxy was about to discover that humanity had never really given up war. They had just become so good at it that they could fight without anyone realizing a war was happening. For 5 millennia, they had been playing a game of chess where their opponents did not even know they were pieces on the board. In 18 hours, the Vorthak fleet would reach Sol system expecting to find helpless humans begging for mercy. Instead, they would find themselves facing an enemy that had been preparing for this exact battle, since before their civilization had learned to make fire. The awakening was complete. Humanity's long peace was over. The real war was about to begin. The Vorthak fleet arrived at the edge of Sol system exactly on schedule. Warchief Thrax stood on the bridge of his flagship Bloodclaw, watching his tactical displays with satisfaction. 1,200 ships stretched out behind him in perfect battle formation. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Forward scouts report no defensive positions, announced his tactical officer. The inner system appears completely undefended. Thrax laughed, showing teeth that could crush metal. Of course it is undefended. The humans probably evacuated their entire population rather than face us. Scan for evacuation ships so we can destroy them. Sir, sensors are detecting some ships near the 4th planet, but they appear to be cargo vessels and passenger transports. Perfect. We will destroy them first, then glass the human homeworld. Let this be a lesson to every weak species in the galaxy. The Vorthak fleet began moving toward Mars, where their sensors showed a cluster of human ships. Thrax expected to find terrified civilians trying to escape. Instead, as his fleet came closer, something strange happened. Sir, the sensor officer called out, his voice confused. Those cargo ships, they're not running away. What do you mean? They're turning toward us. And sir, they're powering weapons. Thrax stared at his display. The signature was impossible. No cargo ship could carry weapons that showed energy readings like that. Check your sensors. They must be malfunctioning. Sensors confirmed working perfectly, sir. But these readings, they don't match any known technology. On the bridge of the Humanity's Folly, Commander Sarah Martinez watched the approaching Vorthak fleet with calm eyes. Her ship had been pretending to be a defenseless museum piece for 30 years. Today it would remind the galaxy what human engineering could really accomplish. Range to target? She asked. 2 million kilometers and closing, her weapons officer reported. Still outside their maximum weapons range? Sarah asked. Yes, ma'am. Their most powerful ship-to-ship weapons are effective at 1 million kilometers maximum. Sarah smiled. The Vorthak had no idea that human weapons could reach targets at ranges they considered impossible. Target the flagship. All weapons, maximum power. Ma'am, at this range. Trust the targeting computer, Lieutenant. It knows what it's doing. Light erupted from the Humanity's Folly. To the Vorthak, it looked like the humans were wasting energy firing at impossible range. They laughed at the desperate attack. Their laughter stopped when their flagship's shields began failing. What? Thrax roared. How are they hitting us? We're too far away. The answer came as more human ships revealed their true nature. The cargo hauler Peaceful Dreams dropped its disguise, revealing weapons that made the Bloodclaw look like a children's toy. A passenger liner called Safe Journey opened hidden bays filled with fighter craft that moved faster than Vorthak sensors could track. Impossible, Thrax whispered. Humans don't have military technology. His tactical officer's voice shook. Sir, I'm reading more ships approaching from all directions. They were hiding behind planets and moons. The Sol defense fleet revealed itself. What had appeared to be empty space suddenly filled with human warships that had been invisible to alien sensors. Ships that looked like nothing the Vorthak had ever seen before, covered in weapons that bent light itself. Captain Elena Vasquez commanded the Unconquered Sun, a ship that had been disguised as a simple transport for 40 years. Now it showed its true form as a dreadnought that could crack planets. Her crew worked with the precision of a machine, each person knowing exactly what to do without being told. Target enemy formation, Charlie, Elena ordered. Show them what happens when you threaten human children. The Unconquered Sun opened fire. Its main weapon created a beam of energy that passed through the Vorthak flagship's shields like they were made of paper. The massive alien ship exploded in a ball of fire that could be seen from Mars. Warchief Thrax found himself floating in an escape pod, watching his invincible fleet being torn apart by enemies that should not exist. Around him, Vorthak ships exploded faster than his remaining crews could count. The humans were not just winning, they were teaching lessons. Each human ship demonstrated different aspects of warfare the Vorthak had never imagined. Some used weapons that attacked the enemy's minds, making veteran warriors suddenly afraid to fight. Others employed technology that turned the Vorthak's own weapons against them, causing alien ships to destroy themselves. Still others simply vanished from sensors and reappeared behind enemy lines like hunting ghosts. "This is impossible," Thrax transmitted to his remaining ships.
"Humans are peaceful."
"They gave up warfare 5,000 years ago." The reply came from Commander Sarah Martinez herself. Her voice was calm and pleasant, like she was discussing the weather. "War Chief Thrax, this is Commander Martinez of the Human Defense Corps. You seem confused about human nature. Let me explain." On every Vorthak ship, screens activated showing Sarah's face. Behind her, the bridge of a human warship hummed with quiet efficiency. "We did not give up warfare, War Chief. We became so good at it that we chose to stop. We realized that true strength comes from knowing when not to fight, not from being unable to fight." A Vorthak cruiser tried to ram the humanity's folly and desperation. The human ship simply moved aside, letting the alien vessel pass harmlessly. Then it destroyed the cruiser with a single shot that was almost casual in its precision. For 5,000 years, we have lived peacefully because we could destroy anyone who threatened that peace. You mistook our choice for weakness. That was your first mistake. More Vorthak ships died as human fighters swarmed around them like angry wasps. The alien pilots could not understand how human craft could move so fast or hit so accurately. Your second mistake was thinking we were not prepared for you. We have been watching your species for centuries. We know every ship design, every weapon system, every tactical doctrine. We have been planning for this battle since before your grandparents were born. The remainder of the Vorthak fleet tried to retreat, but found their escape routes blocked by human ships that seemed to appear from nowhere. They were surrounded by an enemy that had been invisible until the moment they chose to reveal themselves. Your third and final mistake was threatening human civilians. We could have forgiven threats against our military. We could have negotiated over territorial disputes. But you declared your intention to eliminate our people. That is something we cannot allow. Admiral Rebecca Stone's voice joined the transmission from Earth. "War Chief Thrax, I am Admiral Stone of the Human Defense Command. You wanted to see what humans are capable of when threatened. Today you have learned." Behind her, displays showed the battle statistics. In less than 2 hours, the most powerful military force in galactic history had been reduced to scattered escape pods and debris. 1,200 Vorthak ships destroyed. Human losses, 0. "This battle is over," Admiral Stone continued. "But this war is not. Your hegemony has 11 other species. They are all receiving the same lesson you just learned. Human fleets are engaging Vorthak forces in 17 different systems right now." On the bridge of the ghost ship Whisper, Commander Alex Morrison watched Vorthak reinforcements arriving too late to save their comrades. His ship had been decommissioned and sold to a Vorthak ally 20 years ago. The alien buyers thought they had purchased scrap metal. They never noticed that the ship's systems had been secretly reactivated by human engineers. They never realized that their scrap metal was actually one of humanity's most advanced stealth vessels. Now it appeared behind their reinforcement fleet like a nightmare made real. "This is the HDCS Whisper," Alex transmitted. "You are surrounded. Your main fleet is destroyed. Your home systems are under attack. You have one chance to surrender." The Vorthak commander's response was predictable. "Never, we are warriors. We do not surrender to weak humans." Alex sighed. "That's unfortunate." The Whisper opened fire with weapons that had been hidden inside the ship's hull. What followed was not a battle but a demonstration. The reinforcement fleet died so quickly that some ships exploded before their crews realized they were under attack. Back in Sol System, War Chief Thrax floated in his escape pod and listened to reports from across Vorthak space. Every military base was under siege. Every fleet was being destroyed. Every world that had supported the hegemony was watching human ships appear in their skies. The humans were not conquering. They were not enslaving. They were simply and efficiently removing every threat to human civilian populations. "How?" Thrax whispered. "How did we not know?" Commander Sarah Martinez answered him directly. "Because we are very good at keeping secrets. For 5,000 years, every human you met was trained from birth to hide our true capabilities. Every farmer, every trader, every diplomat, every artist, all of them were also soldiers waiting for someone to threaten humanity." Dr. Emily Carter's voice joined from the Harmony Research Station. "War Chief, I have spent my career studying Vorthak psychology. I know that your species respects only strength. Today you have seen true strength. The question now is, will you learn from it? On screens throughout the Vorthak fleet, she displayed images that struck at the core of their warrior culture. Pictures of human children playing in gardens while invisible guardians watched from the shadows. Images of human artists creating beautiful sculptures while weapons capable of destroying worlds remained safely hidden. Videos of human farmers growing food while warrior farmers tended to defenses that could stop any invasion. "This is what strength truly looks like," Emily explained. "Not the need to prove your power by destroying others, but the choice to use your power to protect what you love." War Chief Thrax stared at the images in horror and wonder. His species had built their entire culture around the idea that strength meant conquest. They had never imagined that the strongest beings in the galaxy might choose to appear weak. "What do you want from us?" he asked. Admiral Stone's image appeared on his pod screen. "What we have always wanted, War Chief. Peace. But now you understand that our peace has always been protected by our strength. You can choose to be part of that peace, or you can continue learning about our strength." Around Sol System, human ships began powering down their weapons. The lesson was over. The Vorthak fleet was defeated. But more importantly, the galaxy had been reminded of something it had forgotten for 5,000 years. Humanity had never been weak. They had simply been strong enough to choose gentleness. The message was already spreading to every corner of known space. The humans were back at war, and war was what they did best. The news of the Sol System battle spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Every species that had thought they understood humanity suddenly realized they knew nothing at all. The Vorthak hegemony, which had seemed unstoppable just days before, was now sending desperate calls for help to anyone who would listen. General Krex of the Saurian Empire received one such call while eating breakfast at his military headquarters. The Saurians had been allies of the Vorthak for 2 centuries, sharing technology and battle tactics. They considered themselves almost as strong as the hegemony itself. "General," his communications officer interrupted. "War Chief Thrax is requesting immediate military assistance. He says the humans have some kind of secret weapons." General Krex laughed, spraying bits of his breakfast across the table. "Secret weapons? The humans? They probably converted some cargo ships and got lucky. Send 3 battle groups to Sol System. We'll show these peaceful gardeners what real military force looks like." 4 hours later, General Krex was not laughing anymore. "What do you mean they're gone?" he demanded. "Sir, all 3 battle groups have stopped responding. Last transmission was from Battle Group Alpha reporting strange ships appearing from nowhere." "Then silence, General." Krex stared at the tactical display showing empty space, where his fleets should have been. 600 of his best ships, commanded by his most experienced officers, had simply vanished. "Get me a direct line to our spy network in human space," he ordered. "I want to know what really happened out there." The answer came back within an hour, and it made General Krex's blood run cold. "Sir," his intelligence chief reported, his voice shaking, "our spy network is gone." "What do you mean, gone?" "Every agent we had in human territory, every listening post, every hidden observer, they're all dead or missing." "But sir, that's not the worst part." "What could be worse? The humans knew about all of them. They've been feeding our spies false information for decades. Everything we thought we knew about human capabilities was lies they wanted us to believe." Meanwhile, deep inside Saurian space, Colonel Janet Hayes sat in what appeared to be a small trading post, selling Earth vegetables to alien customers. She had been running this little shop for 15 years, known to her neighbors as a friendly human merchant who made the best fruit salad in 3-star systems. In reality, Janet was the commanding officer of Deep Strike Team 7. Her trading post was actually a command center that had been monitoring Saurian military communications for over a decade. The vegetables she sold were real, but they also contained microscopic transmitters that allowed her to track the movement of supplies throughout the Saurian Empire. "All units, this is Control." Janet spoke into a device that looked like a kitchen timer. "Phase 2 is authorized. Let's remind our customers what we really sell here." Throughout Saurian space, dozens of similar businesses activated their true purposes. A human restaurant became a command post for psychological warfare. A human school turned into a communications hub that could intercept any signal in the Empire. A human hospital revealed itself to be a center for biological warfare that could target specific, alien genetic markers. But the most shocking revelation was on the Saurian homeworld. Itself, Ambassador David Park had represented humanity on the Saurian capital for 20 years. He was well liked by the locals, famous for his charity work helping Saurian orphans. He had personally donated millions of credits to build schools and hospitals. What the Saurians did not know was that every school and hospital he built contained hidden surveillance equipment. Every charity event he organized allowed him to map the planet's defenses. Every friend he made became an unwilling source of intelligence about military secrets. Computer, activate Trojan Horse protocols. David spoke to his embassy's systems. Trojan Horse protocols activated. All embedded systems coming online. Across the Saurian homeworld, infrastructure that humans had helped build over the decades suddenly revealed hidden purposes. Communication networks designed by human engineers contained backdoors that gave humans control over all planetary communications. Power plants built with human assistance could be shut down remotely. Even the planet's defensive satellites, which used human-made components, could be turned against their owners. "This is impossible," General Krex whispered as reports flooded in from across his empire. "How could they have infiltrated us so completely?" The answer came from Admiral Rebecca Stone herself. Her face appeared on every screen in the Saurian Military Command Center. "General Krex," she said with a pleasant smile. "I hope you're having a good day. I wanted to personally thank you for your cooperation over the years." "Cooperation?" Krex sputtered. "We've been enemies." "Oh no, General. You've been our customers. Every piece of technology you bought from human companies contained our monitoring systems. Every human you hired as an advisor reported back to us. Every time you shared intelligence with the Vorthak, you were sharing it with us too." Behind Admiral Stone, displays showed detailed maps of every Saurian military base, complete with guard rotations, weapon placements, and structural weaknesses. For 5,000 years, humanity has been preparing for the day someone would threaten our people. We've infiltrated every major civilization in the galaxy. We know your military codes, your supply routes, your strategic plans. We know which officers can be bribed and which ones actually believe in their cause. General Krex realized with growing horror that humanity had not just been preparing for war, they had been preparing for this specific war against these specific enemies. "What do you want?" he asked. "The same thing we've always wanted," Admiral Stone replied. "Peace. But since you chose to support those who would destroy human children, you need to understand the consequences of that choice." The consequences became clear over the next few hours. Commander Lisa Zhang led the Ghost Fleet's assault on the Saurian naval yards at Kepler Station. Her ships had been hiding in the system for 2 years, disguised as derelict hulks that the Saurians occasionally used for target practice. Today, those derelict hulks revealed their true nature as some of the most advanced warships ever built. "Remember, people," Lisa announced to her fleet, "we're not here to conquer. We're here to remove a threat to human civilians, disable their military capabilities but avoid unnecessary casualties." The battle that followed was not really a battle at all. It was a surgical operation performed by experts who knew exactly where to cut. Saurian ships found their weapons failing, their communications jammed, their navigation systems reporting false positions. When they tried to retreat, they discovered that their own defense stations were firing on them under human control. Captain Robert Kim watched from the bridge of the Silent Hunter as Saurian reinforcements arrived to defend their homeworld. His ship had been destroyed in a battle with pirates 5 years earlier. The Saurians had even attended the memorial service for his dead crew. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "enemy reinforcements are demanding to know who we are." "Tell them we're ghosts," Robert replied. Ghosts of every human they thought was helpless. The psychological effect of fighting enemies who were supposed to be dead was devastating. Saurian crews began to panic, convinced they were being attacked by supernatural forces. Some ships surrendered without firing a shot. Others tried to retreat but found their escape routes blocked by more ghost ships. On the planet below, David Park walked calmly through the Saurian capital as defense sirens wailed overhead. Citizens who had known him as a kind ambassador stared in shock as human soldiers emerged from buildings they had thought were innocent businesses. "Don't be afraid," David announced over the city's communication system, which was now under human control. "We're not here to hurt anyone. We're here to remove your government's ability to threaten human children." The Saurian Military Command Center, built into a mountain that was supposed to be impregnable, found itself surrounded by human forces that had apparently materialized from thin air. In reality, they had been living in the city for years, working as teachers, doctors, shopkeepers, and maintenance workers. General Krex watched his entire empire collapse in less than 6 hours. Every military base captured or destroyed. Every fleet defeated or scattered. Every weapon system turned against itself. And through it all, the humans remained terrifyingly polite. "General," David Park's voice came through his personal communicator. "I'm in your lobby. May I come up? I think we should discuss terms." Krex looked at his security monitors and saw the human ambassador standing calmly in the building's main entrance. Behind him, Saurian soldiers lay unconscious on the floor, apparently unharmed but completely helpless. "How?" Krex asked when David entered his office. "How did you do this?" David sat down and poured himself a cup of tea from Krex's personal supply. "Time, patience, and very careful planning. Also, you should know that this tea has been keeping us informed about your health and stress levels for the past 3 years." Krex stared at his teacup in horror. "You've been poisoning me?" "Oh no," David assured him. "Just monitoring. The nanoscale sensors in the tea leaves are completely harmless. They just tell us when you're lying, when you're afraid, and when you're planning something we need to know about." Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy as humanity revealed the true extent of their infiltration. The Christine Collective discovered that their entire communication network had been designed by humans and could be controlled remotely. The Metallic Brotherhood found that their robot armies contained human-made components that could shut them down with a single signal. Most shocking of all was the revelation on the Vorthak homeworld itself. War Chief Thrax, now a prisoner on his own planet, watched human forces occupy every major city without firing a shot. The warriors he had commanded for decades stood motionless, their weapons powered down by human technology they didn't even know they were carrying. "This is impossible," he repeated for the 100th time. "How could you have infiltrated us so completely? We trust no one. We work with no outsiders." Captain Maria Santos, commander of the Human Occupation Force, smiled sadly. "War Chief, who do you think built the weapons you used to conquer 12 star systems? Who designed the armor that made your warriors feel invincible? Who created the communication systems that coordinated your fleets?" Thrax's face went pale as the truth hit him. "Human companies, but you were just contractors. Just businesses selling equipment. Every piece of military hardware the Vorthak hegemony has used in the past century contains human-built components," Maria explained. "Components with hidden functions that we could activate whenever we chose. Your entire military has been under our control since the day you decided to become conquerors." She showed him footage of Vorthak weapons shutting down in the middle of battles, a Vorthak ship suddenly losing power, a Vorthak armor becoming too heavy for its wearers to move. Across the hegemony's territory, 12 species that had thought themselves unstoppable found themselves helpless. "We could have stopped you at any time," Maria continued. "But we hoped you would choose peace on your own. We gave you chances to change, opportunities to become something better than conquerors. You chose to threaten human children instead." The scope of humanity's preparation became clear as reports arrived from across known space. Every major military power in the galaxy had been infiltrated, monitored, and secretly controlled. Weapons they thought belonged to them actually obeyed human commands. Ships they believed were theirs could be disabled by signals from human operators. For 5,000 years, humanity had been the galaxy's gardeners, farmers, and friends, but they had also been its watchers, its hidden guardians, and its secret masters. The hunters had become the hunted, and they never even knew the hunt had begun. War Chief Thrax sat in his cell and finally understood what Ambassador Zara Chen had meant when she chuckled at his declaration of war. Humanity hadn't been laughing at the threat. They had been laughing at how long it took their enemies to realize they were already defeated. Ambassador Zara Chen stood once again in the great halls of the Galactic Concordat. 3 months had passed since the Vorthak declared war on humanity. The same crystal floors gleamed under the same artificial suns, but everything else had changed forever. The seats that once held representatives from the Vorthak hegemony were now occupied by different beings entirely. Where War Chief Thrax had once sat making threats, a humble Vorthak teacher named Kelix now served as his species' new ambassador. The warrior's armor had been replaced by simple robes. The claws that had terrorized a dozen species were now used to tend a small garden outside the assembly hall. The reformed Vorthak Republic wishes to present its annual peace dividend, Kellex announced in a voice that would have been unthinkable from his predecessor. Our former military budget has been redirected to education and infrastructure development for species we previously harmed. Similar announcements came from across the galaxy. The Saurian Empire had become the Saurian Commonwealth, its military forces transformed into exploration and rescue services. The Christine Collective had disbanded their slave armies and begun paying wages to workers they had previously owned. Every species that had supported the hegemony's war was now competing to demonstrate their commitment to peace. Zara listened to each report with the same gentle smile she had worn for decades. But now everyone in the chamber understood what that smile really meant. It was not the expression of a helpless victim. It was the quiet confidence of someone who knew exactly how much power she represented. "Does the human representative wish to comment on these developments?" asked Speaker Vex, whose metal skin seemed to reflect light differently these days. Even he had been changed by learning the truth about humanity. Zara stood up slowly, just as she had 3 months ago. "Humanity is pleased to see our galactic neighbors choosing cooperation over conquest. We have always believed that peace is possible when all parties understand the true cost of war." The chamber remained silent. 3 months ago, aliens had whispered and muttered when humans spoke. Now they listened with the attention usually reserved for natural disasters or divine pronouncements. "We would like to announce that human colonies are resuming normal operations," Zara continued. "Our agricultural worlds are once again producing food for export. Our research stations are sharing scientific discoveries. Our trading posts are open to all species who come in friendship." What she did not mention, but everyone understood, was that those same colonies could become fortresses in hours. Those research stations could track any ship in the galaxy. Those trading posts could become weapons depots with a single coded transmission. After the session, Zara walked through the commercial district just as she had months before. But now the aliens she passed looked at her with expressions that mixed respect, fear, and something approaching worship. Children of various species stopped playing when she passed, staring at the small human woman who represented the most powerful military force in galactic history. She stopped at the same Zilonian restaurant where she had eaten before the war began. Grix, the owner, greeted her with three-eyed stares that held emotions he struggled to express. "Ambassador Chen," he said carefully.
We are grateful that humans chose mercy." "Mercy?"
Zara seemed genuinely puzzled. "My friend, we simply chose to protect ourselves and our allies. That is what any reasonable species would do. But you could have conquered us all. You could have enslaved every world in the galaxy. Your power is beyond our understanding." Zara ordered the same simple meal she had always preferred. "Power without wisdom is just destruction, Grix. Conquest without purpose is just waste. Humanity learned long ago that ruling others through fear creates more problems than it solves." She paused to sip her drink, a local specialty that Grix had introduced her 2 years earlier. "Besides, we prefer to be gardeners rather than rulers. Gardens grow better when tended with care rather than controlled through force." On the news screens throughout the restaurant, reports continued about the transformation of galactic society. The great military buildup that had characterized the past century was reversing itself. Species that had spent fortunes on weapons were redirecting their resources toward exploration, art, and scientific research. Not because they had lost the desire to protect themselves, but because they now understood that true protection came from having friends rather than enemies. War Chief Thrax, now known simply as Thrax the Teacher, appeared on one of the screens. He was leading a group of young Vorthak through a rebuilt city on one of the worlds his forces had previously conquered. The former slaves he had once commanded now worked beside Vorthak citizens as equals, building schools where military bases had once stood. "The humans taught us something we had forgotten," Thrax explained to his students. "Strength is not about who you can defeat. It is about what you can protect and what you can build." One of the young Vorthak asked a question that millions of beings across the galaxy were wondering. "Teacher, why did the humans hide their true power for so long?" Thrax was quiet for a long moment. "Because they understood something we did not. They knew that the strongest person in a room is often the one who never has to prove it." Meanwhile, deep beneath the Earth's surface, Dr. Marcus Webb was returning the weapons of war to their long sleep. The chambers that had been filled with activity for 3 months were growing quiet again. Ancient machines powered down. Weapon systems went back into preservation mode. The museum above resumed its peaceful educational mission. Computer begin hibernation protocols, Marcus commanded. Set monitoring to passive observation level. Acknowledged, Director. All systems returning to standby mode. Estimated time to reactivation if needed, 4 hours, 37 minutes. Marcus smiled at that last detail. Even in peace, humanity remained ready. The galaxy now knew they existed, but they still did not know the true extent of human capabilities. That was exactly how humanity preferred it. On Mars, Commander Sarah Martinez watched her crew transform the humanity's folly back into a convincing museum exhibit. Tourists would begin arriving next week. Aliens who wanted to see the ship that had destroyed the mighty Vorthak fleet. They would walk through corridors that had been filled with weapons fire just months before, listening to guides explain how human military technology had evolved over the centuries. What they would not learn was that the ship's true capabilities remained hidden. The weapon systems that had shattered Thrax's fleet were already concealed again behind false panels and fake displays. Future visitors would see what appeared to be humanity's greatest warship, never realizing they were looking at what humans considered a barely adequate patrol vessel. Captain, her first officer asked quietly, "Do you think we'll ever need to do this again?" Sarah looked out at the stars where human ships were once again moving peacefully along trade routes. "I hope not, Commander. But if we do, at least now the galaxy understands what they're choosing when they choose war with humanity." Captain Elena Vasquez had returned to commanding cargo runs between human and alien worlds. Her ship Peaceful Dreams once again carried trade goods instead of weapons of mass destruction. But her crew remained ready, and her cargo holds could be converted back to weapons bays in less than an hour. The aliens who hired her services treated her with a respect that bordered on reverence. Port authorities who had once barely noticed another human cargo ship now processed her paperwork with careful attention to every detail. Other captains who had once joked about human inefficiency now asked for her advice on everything from navigation to personnel management. Captain Vasquez, a young alien officer, asked during one port call, "Is it true that all human cargo ships are actually warships in disguise?" Elena smiled the same gentle smile that had become humanity's signature expression. "Young officer, that would be telling, wouldn't it?" Dr. Emily Carter continued her research into alien psychology, but now her work was requested by governments rather than hidden in secret laboratories. Species across the galaxy wanted to understand how they could avoid making the same mistakes that had led to the Vorthak War. The key insight, she explained to a gathering of alien diplomats, is that fear and respect are not the same thing. Fear makes enemies who will attack you the moment they think they can win. Respect makes allies who will defend you because they value what you represent. But how did humans earn such respect while appearing weak? Asked a delegate from the former Christine Collective. "We earned respect by being consistently trustworthy," Emily replied. "For 5,000 years, humans have kept our promises, helped our friends, and never attacked unless attacked first. When people trust you, they don't fear your strength, they rely on it." On Earth itself, President Michael Jong addressed a gathering of human colony leaders. The meeting was broadcast live to human worlds across the galaxy, but alien intelligence services no longer bothered trying to intercept the signals. They had learned that humans only hid information that others were not ready to handle responsibly. "The emergency is over," President Zhang announced. "All colonies may resume normal civilian operations. Military units are to return to their cover identities and await further orders." What followed was the largest demobilization in galactic history. Millions of humans who had revealed themselves as soldiers during the crisis quietly returned to their roles as farmers, teachers, artists, and shopkeepers. The galaxy's most powerful military force simply faded back into the civilian population, invisible but ready. "Are we truly returning to the way things were?" asked Governor Lisa Park from the New Terra colony. "No," President Zhang replied honestly. "Things will never be the same. The galaxy knows we exist now, but that might actually be better for everyone. For 5,000 years, we maintained peace through secret strength. Now we can maintain peace through demonstrated strength. The choice is cleaner for everyone involved." Back on Nexus Prime, Ambassador Zara Chen received a visitor in her embassy. War Chief Thrax, now just Thrax, had requested a private meeting. He entered her office looking older and somehow smaller than he had in his armor. Without the artificial enhancements that had made him seem so terrifying. He was simply a being trying to understand how the universe worked. "I have spent 3 months studying human history," Thrax said as he sat down across from her desk. "I still do not understand how your species made the transition from warriors to gardeners." Zara poured tea for both of them, using the same service she had used for diplomatic meetings for 20 years. "It was not easy," she admitted. "Our ancestors had to choose between becoming the galaxy's greatest threat or its greatest protector. They chose protection, but they never forgot how to be a threat. The other species fear that humanity might change its mind, that you might decide conquest is easier than cooperation. Do you fear that, Thrax?" The former war chief considered the question carefully. "I fear what I do not understand. But I am beginning to understand that humans are not like other species. You do not seek to rule others because you have learned to rule yourselves." Zara nodded approvingly. That may be the wisest thing anyone has said about humanity in 5,000 years. As the months passed, galactic civilization settled into new patterns. Military budgets shrank while education and research funding expanded. Conflicts that might have led to wars were now resolved through negotiation, with human mediators often requested to ensure fair solutions. Trade increased as species no longer needed to spend resources on defense against each other. Scientific discoveries accelerated as researchers could share information without fear of military applications. Art and culture flourished as beings no longer lived under the shadow of constant warfare. The Galactic Concordat expanded its membership as species that had been afraid to join a weak organization now competed for admission to an alliance protected by humanity. The galaxy's total population grew as colonies no longer needed to be armed camps, allowing civilians to live safely on worlds that had been too dangerous to settle. But perhaps the most important change was in how species thought about strength itself. Children across the galaxy grew up learning new lessons. Strength was not about destroying enemies, but about protecting friends. Power was not about ruling others, but about helping them become their best selves. Victory was not about conquest, but about creating situations where everyone could prosper. And behind all these lessons was the quiet presence of humanity. Gardeners who had become shepherds, teachers who remained warriors, friends who were always ready to defend those they loved. Ambassador Zara Chen stood once more in the Galactic Concordat, 5 years after the war that had lasted only 3 months. The chamber was fuller now, with representatives from species that had never dared to participate in galactic politics when it was dominated by military powers. "The human delegation is pleased to announce the opening of the Terran Diplomatic Academy," she said to the assembled representatives. "We will be training the next generation of galactic diplomats in the arts of negotiation, mediation, and conflict resolution." What she did not announce was that every graduate would also receive training in intelligence analysis, psychological warfare, and strategic planning. Future diplomats would be prepared to maintain peace through understanding, but they would also be ready to defend it through force if necessary. As the session ended, Zara walked through the commercial district one final time before returning to Earth for reassignment. The same shops were there, the same vendors selling their wares. But now children of different species played together without their parents worrying about ancient hatreds or territorial disputes. She stopped at Grix's restaurant for a farewell meal. The Zolonian had learned to make Earth-style dishes over the years, and his fruit salad had become famous throughout the station. "Ambassador," Grix said as he served her meal, "will humans ever tell us the truth about your real capabilities?" Zara smiled the smile that had become humanity's signature across the galaxy. "My friend, we tell you the truth every day. We are gardeners who tend the galaxy's peace. We are teachers who help others learn wisdom. We are friends who stand beside those who share our values." She paused to taste the fruit salad, nodding approvingly at Grix's improvement in the recipe. "The only thing we keep secret is how much we're willing to sacrifice to protect what we love. And honestly, we prefer that some things remain mysteries." As her ship departed Nexus Prime for the final time, Zara looked back at the space station that had been the center of her life for 2 decades. Soon another human would take her place, continuing humanity's role as the galaxy's quiet guardians. The peace would continue stronger now because everyone understood its true foundation. Humanity had shown the galaxy that the best way to end wars was to be so prepared for them that no one would dare start them. And in proving their strength, They had finally achieved the lasting peace they had always wanted. The 5,000-year peace had ended with alien declarations of war and human Chuckles. It had been replaced by something much better. A peace built on mutual respect, protected by demonstrated strength, and maintained by the quiet confidence of those who knew exactly what they were capable of. The galaxy was finally safe, watched over by gardeners who had never forgotten how to be warriors when gardening was not enough. Admiral Vex stood on the bridge of his massive warship, looking out at the endless stars. His 12-foot frame cast a long shadow across the metal floor. His thick, armored skin gleamed under the bright lights. Like all Titans, he was built for war, strong enough to crush steel with his bare hands, tough enough to survive in space without a suit. "Admiral," called his science officer, Dr. Cole, "we have found something strange." Vex turned his large head toward the smaller alien. Dr. Cole was nervous, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly. "What is it?" Vex asked in his deep voice. "A ship, sir. Dead in the water, it's floating in the void sector." The void sector was empty space between star systems. Nothing lived there. Nothing should be there. Vex walked to the main screen and looked at the image. The ship was small compared to his fleet. It looked old and beaten up. The metal hull was dark and full of holes. "Scan it," Vex ordered. Captain Rex, his best warrior, stepped forward. Rex was even bigger than most Titans, with scars covering his arms from 100 battles. "Sir, the ship looks like junk, probably from some dead race we destroyed years ago." Dr. Cole worked at his computer. His hands shook a little as he read the results. "Admiral, this is strange. The ship shows signs of heavy fighting. But look at these weapon marks." The screen showed close-up pictures of the ship's hull. Long, deep cuts ran along the sides. Burn marks from energy weapons covered the surface. But something was wrong with the damage. "These weapon marks," Dr. Cole continued, "they're made by guns that don't exist in our database, and these cuts, and they're too deep. Nothing should be able to cut through metal like this." Vex studied the images. In his 300 years of life, he had conquered 60 star systems. He had seen every type of weapon in the galaxy, but these marks were different. "What about life signs?" he asked. "None, sir. The ship is completely dead. But—" Dr. Cole paused. "There's an emergency beacon. It's very weak, but it's still working." "What language?" "Unknown, sir. I've never seen these symbols before." Captain Rex laughed, a sound like rocks falling. "Probably some primitive race that got wiped out. We should just blast it and move on." But Admiral Vex was curious. He had not become the leader of the Titan fleet by ignoring mysteries. "No. We board it. I want to know what happened here." 20 minutes later, a boarding party suited up in the hangar bay. Captain Rex led 12 of the strongest Titan warriors. Each one wore heavy armor and carried weapons that could destroy a building. They looked like moving mountains as they walked to their shuttle. "Remember," Vex told them over the radio, "we're looking for information. Don't destroy everything you touch." The shuttle flew across the dark space between the ships. As they got closer, the mysterious vessel looked even more damaged. Hull plates were missing. Windows were cracked or blown out completely. Whatever had happened here, it had been violent. "Getting closer to the airlock," Rex reported. "The ship looks like it went through a war." The shuttle connected to the dead ship with a loud clang. Rex and his team cut through the airlock door with laser torches. The metal was thick, thicker than it should be for such a small ship. Inside, emergency lighting cast red shadows on the walls. The air was thin but breathable. Rex's team moved carefully through the narrow corridors. Everything was built for smaller creatures. The Titans had to duck their heads and squeeze their shoulders through doorways. "This place gives me the creeps," muttered one warrior. They found the first evidence of fighting near what looked like the main corridor. Blast marks covered the walls. Metal barriers had been set up like a fortress. Someone had made a desperate last stand here. "Sir," called another warrior from ahead, "you need to see this." Rex moved forward and stopped. On the wall in front of him were deep scratches in the metal. They looked like claw marks, but they were huge, bigger than anything Rex had ever seen. More importantly, they had cut through Titan-grade armor plating like it was soft wood. "What could do this?" Rex whispered. His team spread out looking for more clues. They found empty weapon cases, medical supplies scattered on the floor, and small pieces of equipment they didn't recognize. Everything was built for creatures about 6 feet tall, much smaller than Titans. In the ship's bridge, they found what they were looking for. The main computer was still working, running on backup power. Strange symbols covered the screens. But on one wall, painted in what looked like dried blood, were more symbols. Rex took pictures of everything. "Admiral," he called over the radio. "We found the ship's name. At least we think we did." "What is it?" Rex looked at the symbols carved into a metal plate near the captain's chair. The letters were in a style he had never seen before. UNS Defiance. Mean anything to you? Back on the Titan flagship, Dr. Cole was already working on the translation. "Admiral, I'm running the symbols through our database. So far, nothing matches." Admiral Vex studied the pictures Rex had sent. The claw marks bothered him most. In all his years of war, he had never seen damage like that. What kind of creature could cut through Titan armor? And where was it now? "Sir," Dr. Cole said suddenly, "I'm picking up something on long-range sensors." "What?" "Ships. 3 of them. Coming. This way fast." Vex looked at the tactical display. 3 small dots were approaching from the edge of the system. They moved in a tight formation like hunters. "How long until they get here?" 20 minutes, sir." Vex made a decision. "Rex, get your team back here now. We might have company." As the Titan warriors hurried back to their shuttle, none of them noticed the small camera that watched them leave. Deep inside the dead ship, a computer system that had been pretending to sleep for months quietly activated. It sent a single short message into space. The message was simple. "Package delivered. Targets acquired. Begin Phase 2. Far away, on Nade." The approaching ships. Commander Blake smiled as he read the message. The trap was working perfectly. The Titans had found the bait, just as planned. Now it was time to teach the galaxy's strongest species a lesson they would never forget. The human fleet increased speed, rushing toward their first real test against the beings who thought they ruled the galaxy. Behind them, dozens more human ships waited in the darkness, ready to show the Titans what real strength looked like. The war that would change everything was about to begin. Captain Rex and his team rushed back to the Titan flagship as fast as their shuttle could fly. Behind them, the mysterious dead ship floated in space like a dark secret. Rex couldn't stop thinking about those claw marks in the metal. What kind of creature could cut through Titan armor like soft butter? "Get me those computer files decoded now," Admiral Vex ordered Dr. Cole as soon as the boarding party returned. "I want to know everything about that ship." Dr. Cole's 4 eyes were wide with worry as he worked at his computer station. His fingers moved quickly over the controls, trying to break the alien code. "Sir, this language is completely unknown, but I'm finding some patterns. Give me a few more minutes." On the main screen, the 3 approaching ships grew larger. They were sleek and angular like metal sharks swimming through space. Unlike the boxy, powerful design of Titan warships, these vessels looked built for speed and precision. "Distance?" Vex asked. 15 minutes and closing fast," reported the navigation officer. "Sir, they're moving faster than our records show is possible for ships that size." Vex studied the tactical display. The unknown ships flew in perfect formation, each one exactly where it should be. Whoever was piloting them knew what they were doing. "Admiral," Dr. Cole shouted suddenly, "I've broken part of the code. You need to see this." The main screen changed to show data from the dead ship's computer. Even though most of it was still in alien symbols, some parts had been translated. What they saw made every Titan on the SCI-FI bridge go quiet. "These are battle plans," Dr. Cole whispered. "Detailed attack strategies against Titan ships. Look at this section. It shows exactly where to hit our shields to make them fail. And here, weapon configurations designed specifically to pierce Titan armor." Admiral Vex felt something he had not experienced in centuries: real fear. "How is that possible? Our military secrets are the most protected information in the galaxy." "There's more, sir," Dr. Cole's voice was shaking now. Medical files. Complete biological data on Titan physiology, blood chemistry, bone density, nerve response times, everything. This data is more detailed than our own military medical records. Captain. Rex stepped forward, his massive fists clenched. Impossible. No species has ever gotten this close to our secrets. 10 minutes until contact, the navigation officer announced. Admiral Vex made a decision. He activated the ship's communication system and sent a message toward the approaching vessels. Unknown ships, this is Admiral Vex of the Titan Imperial Fleet. You are entering a restricted military zone. Identify yourselves immediately or face the consequences. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the speakers crackled to life with a voice that spoke perfect Titan language, but with a strange accent that sounded almost amused. This is Commander Blake of the Human Colonial Navy. You are currently in possession of our property. Return our ship, and we might consider letting you leave this system intact. The entire bridge erupted in laughter. Even Dr. Cole's worried expression changed to one of disbelief. Captain Rex laughed so hard his armor rattled. Humans? Rex gasped between laughs. The small pink things from that backward system? Admiral Vex had heard of humans before. According to the galactic database, they were a recently discovered species from a small blue planet. Average height of 6 feet, no natural weapons, fragile bone structure, and primitive technology. They had barely learned to travel between stars when the Titans first cataloged them. Human, Vex spoke into the communicator, trying to control his amusement. You are speaking to the Admiral of the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. We are the Titans. We have conquered 80% of known space. Your little ships are no match for our dreadnoughts. Is that so? Commander Blake's voice came back, still sounding amused. Tell me, Admiral, how many of your ships have survived 300 years of constant warfare? Warfare? Vex was confused. The galaxy has been at peace under Titan rule for 2 centuries. Not our galaxy, Blake replied. We've been fighting since before you knew we existed. Every ship in my fleet has been through battles that would turn your dreadnoughts into scrap metal. Every human aboard has lived through wars you can't imagine. Captain Rex stepped up to the communication panel. Enough talk, human. You want your junk ship back? Come and take it. 5 minutes to contact, the navigation officer reported. Doctor, Call was still working on the alien files when something made him gasp. Admiral, I've found something else. These aren't just battle plans, they're predictions. Look at this timestamp. These files were created 3 months ago, but they describe this exact encounter. They knew we would find their ship. They knew we would board it. Admiral Vex felt ice in his veins. What are you saying? I think this was all planned. The derelict ship, us finding it, even this conversation. It's all here in their files. On the screen, the 3 human ships had formed into an attack pattern. They moved with liquid grace, each ship flowing into position like they were dancing, instead of preparing for war. Human ships, this is your final warning, Vex transmitted. Retreat now or be destroyed. You are outnumbered 50-3. Your small vessels cannot possibly damage our fleet. Commander Blake's response came back. Immediately. Outnumbered? Admiral, you're looking at this all wrong. It's not 50 against 3. It's 50 of your ships against 3 of ours that have never lost a battle. 2 minutes to weapons range, the tactical officer reported. Admiral Vex looked around his bridge. Every station was manned by the best warriors in the Titan fleet. His flagship alone carried enough firepower to destroy a planet. Behind him, 49 other Titan warships waited in formation. They had never been defeated in battle. But something was wrong. The human ships weren't acting like any enemy he had ever faced. Instead of spreading out or trying to run, they were moving closer together, like they were getting ready to do something impossible. Admiral, Dr. Cole called out urgently. I found something else in their files. A tactical manual. Chapter 7. How to fight enemies bigger than you. Sir, they have specific strategies for fighting larger opponents. This whole manual is about winning battles when you're outnumbered and outgunned. Weapons range in 30 seconds, the tactical officer announced. Admiral Vex stared at the screen. The 3 small human ships looked like insects compared to his massive fleet. But insects, he remembered from his studies of conquered worlds, sometimes had the deadliest bites. All ships, battle stations, he commanded. Let's show these humans why we rule the galaxy. But even as he gave the order, Admiral Vex couldn't shake the feeling that he was about to learn something he really didn't want to know. On the human flagship, Commander Blake looked at his tactical display and smiled. Everything was going according to plan. The Titans had taken the bait perfectly. Now it was time to teach the galaxy's so-called strongest species their first lesson in humility. All ships prepare to engage, Blake ordered. Remember, we're not here to destroy them, we're here to educate them, make every shot count. The first battle between humans and Titans was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. 50 Titan warships opened fire at the same time. The space between the fleets lit up like a star-going nova. Massive energy beams, plasma cannons, and missile swarms all aimed at the 3 small human ships. It was enough firepower to destroy a moon. But when the light faded, all 3 human ships were still there. Impossible, Captain Rex whispered. The human ships had moved. Not just moved, they had danced. While the Titan weapons fired in straight lines, the human vessels had twisted and spun through space like they were alive. They used the gravity of nearby asteroids to change direction. They flew behind debris to hide. They moved in ways that made no sense. How did they do that? Dr. Cole asked, staring at his instruments. All ships, adjust targeting, Admiral Vex ordered. Lock onto their new positions. But the human ships weren't staying still. They flew in patterns that hurt to watch. One moment they were spread apart. The next they were flying so close together, they looked like one ship. Then they would split. Again, an attack from 3 different directions. Admiral, the tactical officer called out, they're targeting our shield generators. What? How do they know where those are? Before Vex could get an answer, the human ships opened fire. Their weapons weren't the biggest or most powerful in the galaxy, but they were precise. Each shot hit exactly where it was supposed to. The first Titan ship lost its shields. The second lost its main guns. The third started spinning out of control as its engines died. Return fire. All ships, return fire, Vex screamed. The Titan fleet tried to hit the human ships again. But it was like trying to swat flies with hammers. The humans were too fast, too smart, and they seemed to know exactly what the Titans would do before they did it. Captain Rex watched in growing horror as his mighty fleet fell apart. Sir, they're not fighting like any species I've ever seen. They're not trying to overpower us. They're hunting us. It was true. The human ships moved like predators. They would attack one Titan ship until it was damaged, then move to the next. They never stayed in one place long enough to be hit. They used every piece of space junk, every asteroid, every shadow as cover. Admiral! Dr. Cole shouted over the noise of battle. I'm reading massive power spikes from the derelict ship. On the screen, the dead human ship that had started this whole mess was coming alive. Lights flickered on across its hull. Engines that had been cold for months roared to life. Weapon systems that had looked broken and useless started to power up. The boarding party, Admiral Vex realized with horror. Rex, get your men out of there now. But it was too late. Inside the human ship, Captain Rex's warriors were trapped. The moment the ship powered up, emergency bulkheads had slammed shut. The Titans found themselves locked in small rooms with no way out. Sir, Rex's voice came over the radio, filled with panic. The ship. It's alive. The computer is talking to us. What's it saying? I don't know. It's in that alien language. Back on Dr. Cole's station, the translation program was finally working. The computer's voice echoed through the Titan flagship as he decoded it. Quarantine protocol activated. Hostile borders detected. Beginning defensive procedures. Defensive procedures? Admiral Vex asked. What does that mean? His answer came from Commander Blake's voice over the communication channel. It means, Admiral, that your warriors are about to learn why human ships are dangerous. It's not the ship itself. It's what we put inside it. On the human derelict, Captain Rex and his men found themselves in a nightmare. The ship's computer had turned everything into a weapon. Air vents started spraying sleeping gas. Floors became electrified. Wall panels shot out nets to trap anyone who moved too fast. "This is impossible," Rex shouted into his radio. "Civilian ships don't have this kind of defensive system." "That's where you're wrong," Commander Blake replied, his voice now coming through the derelict ship's speakers. "There are no civilian ships in the human fleet. Every vessel is built to fight. Every human aboard is trained to survive. We learned long ago that in space, everything tries to kill you, so we made everything killable back." Rex tried to break down a door with his massive strength. The metal bent but didn't break. When he hit it again, electricity shot through his armor, dropping him to his knees. "Rex!" Admiral Vex called over the radio. "Report!" "Sir," Rex gasped. "This ship is fighting us. Not the crew, the ship itself, the walls, the floors, even the air. Everything is a weapon." Outside, the battle continued. But it wasn't really a battle anymore. It was a lesson. The 3 human ships had disabled 15 Titan vessels without destroying a single one. They targeted engines, weapons, and life support, but never the parts that would kill the crews. "Admiral," the tactical officer reported, "we've lost 30% of our firepower, but the strange thing is, they could have destroyed us all by now. They're holding back." Admiral Vex was beginning to understand something terrible. The humans weren't trying to win a battle, they were trying to teach him something. "Commander Blake," he called over the radio. "What do you want?" "I want you to listen, Admiral. Your species has conquered most of the galaxy through superior strength and firepower. You've never had to fight for your survival. But we have. For 300 years we fought wars that made your worst battles look like children's games." On the screen, the human ships reformed into a new pattern. They weren't attacking anymore. They were just waiting. Blake continued. "Every human ship has survived fights that would have destroyed your dreadnoughts. Every human crew has lived through disasters that would have killed your strongest warriors. We don't fight to conquer, Admiral. We fight to survive. And that makes us very, very dangerous." Inside the derelict ship, Rex and his men had stopped trying to break out. The ship's defenses had adapted to everything they tried. When they used brute force, the ship used electricity. When they tried to cut through walls, the ship released gas that made them dizzy. When they tried to think their way out, the ship seemed to read their minds and close off every escape route. "Sir," Rex reported weakly, "I think I understand now. This isn't just a ship, it's a trap that thinks." Dr. Cole was studying the tactical data from the battle when something made him go pale. "Admiral, I've been analyzing their attack patterns. These humans, they know our technology better than we do. Every shot they fired hit a critical system. They know exactly how our ships work, how our weapons function, even how we think." Admiral Vex looked at his damaged fleet. Most of his ships were disabled but not destroyed. His warriors were alive but defeated. And somewhere out there, only 3 small human ships had done this to the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. "Commander Blake," he said quietly into the radio, "you've made your point. What happens now?" Blake's voice came back, and for the first time it wasn't amused. It was serious. "Now, Admiral, you learn the most important lesson of all. Being the strongest doesn't mean anything if you can't adapt when everything goes wrong. Your species built an empire on power. We built our survival on intelligence. The galaxy is about to change, and you can either learn from us or be left behind." The first battle between humans and Titans was over. But the real war, the war for the future of the galaxy, was just beginning. Captain Rex sat on the floor of the human ship, breathing heavily. His massive armor was scratched and dented from trying to break free. Around him, his 11 warriors looked just as beaten. The ship had stopped attacking them, but they were still trapped. "Rex," Admiral Vex's voice crackled through the radio. "Are you alive?" "Yes, sir," Rex replied. "But this ship? It's like nothing we've ever seen. It fought us without any crew. The walls themselves were weapons." Dr. Cole had been studying the ship's systems from his position on the Titan flagship. "Captain, I think I understand what happened. This isn't just a warship. It's a survival machine. Every system has 3 backup systems. Every room can become a fortress. Every piece of equipment can be turned into a weapon. Rex looked around the small room where he was trapped. Now that the fighting had stopped, he could see things more clearly. The walls weren't just metal. They were covered with repair patches, jury-rigged connections, and makeshift modifications. This ship had been rebuilt many times. "Sir," Rex said into his radio, "I'm looking at the ship's internal structure. This vessel has been repaired using parts from dozens of different technologies. Some of this equipment, I don't even recognize it." "What do you mean?" Admiral Vex asked. "They've taken pieces from destroyed ships and made them work together. Titan power cores connected to alien weapon systems. Engine parts from 5 different species all working as one unit. Sir, whoever built this ship didn't just repair it. They improved it using salvage technology." On the main screen of his ship, Rex found something that made his blood run cold. It was a video log from the ship's final battle. As he watched, he began to understand what humans really were. The video showed the ship's crew during their last fight. Rex counted only 20 humans aboard, tiny creatures compared to Titans. But as he watched them work, he realized they were not like any species he had ever encountered. When the ship's main weapon system failed, instead of giving up, the humans rerouted power from life support to make it work. When the engine was damaged, they used medical equipment to create replacement parts. When enemies boarded their ship, they didn't just fight them. They turned their own ship into a maze of traps and weapons. "Admiral," Rex whispered into his radio, "you need to see this. I'm sending you a video file." The recording showed a human female, barely 5 feet tall and bleeding from multiple wounds. She was surrounded by 8 alien warriors, each one twice her size. Instead of surrendering, she used her knowledge of the ship's systems to create weapons from medical supplies. She turned the lights off and on to confuse her enemies. She used the ship's gravity controls to throw them around like toys. She held them off for 40 minutes, Rex reported, his voice full of amazement. 1 small injured human against 8 trained warriors, and she won. Admiral Vex watched the video on his bridge. Around him, his officers were silent. They were seeing something that challenged everything they believed about strength and power. "How is this possible?" Captain Rex asked over the radio. Commander Blake's voice answered him, coming through the ship's communication system. "Because, Captain, your species has never had to fight for survival. You conquered weak worlds and defeated enemies through superior firepower. But we had to fight for everything." The communication screen activated, showing Blake's face for the first time. He was a human male, average height, with gray hair and tired eyes. He looked nothing like a warrior who could defeat the galaxy's strongest species. "For 300 years, Blake continued, humanity fought wars on every front. We fought alien invasions, plague outbreaks, civil wars, and natural disasters. We didn't just survive. We learned to thrive in chaos. Every human ship is designed to operate independently for years. Every human is trained in multiple skills: soldier, engineer, medic, pilot." Dr. Cole had been analyzing the data from the battle. "Commander Blake, your ships moved in ways that shouldn't be possible. Your weapons hit targets with impossible accuracy. How?" Blake smiled sadly. "Because we've been fighting enemies like you for centuries. Big, powerful, confident enemies who thought their strength made them unbeatable. We learned that the best way to defeat a stronger opponent is to know them better than they know themselves." On his workstation, Dr. Cole pulled up more translated files from the human ship. What he found made him gasp. "Admiral, these files contain tactical analysis of over 100 different alien species. Battle strategies, weapon specifications, biological weaknesses. They have detailed plans for fighting every major race in the galaxy. Including us," Admiral Vex said quietly. "Especially you," Blake confirmed. "We've been watching the Titans for 50 years. We know how you fight, how you think, what makes you confident, and what makes you afraid. This battle wasn't a surprise encounter, Admiral. It was a carefully planned lesson." Captain Rex was still trapped on the human ship, but now he was studying it instead of trying to escape. Every surface told a story of survival. Scorch marks from energy weapons that had been repaired and reinforced. Hull breaches that had been patched with metal from destroyed enemy ships. Even the air recycling system had been rebuilt, using parts from a dozen different technologies. This ship has been through hell, Rex reported. But instead of being destroyed, it got stronger. Every time it was damaged, the crew found a way to make it better. That's the human way, Blake explained. We don't just survive disasters, we learn from them. Every battle teaches us something new. Every defeat makes us smarter. Every victory shows us a better way to fight. Admiral Vex looked at his damaged fleet. 15 ships disabled, dozens of systems offline, hundreds of warriors injured. But none of them were dead. The humans could have destroyed his entire fleet, but they had chosen not to. Why? He asked Blake. Why didn't you destroy us? Because, Admiral, we're not conquerors, we're survivors. And survivors understand that sometimes the best victory is the one where nobody has to die. On the human ship, Captain Rex found the ship's medical bay. Inside were records of treatments for diseases he had never heard of, injuries from weapons that didn't exist in Titan databases, and surgical procedures for repairing damage from environments that would kill most species. Instantly. Sir, Rex called over the radio. I found their medical records, these humans. They've survived things that would kill us. Radiation that would melt our armor. Diseases that attack the nervous system. Injuries that should be fatal. How? Dr. Cole asked. Blake answered. Because we had to. When your homeworld is attacked every few years, when your colonies are constantly under threat, when your very existence depends on being tougher than everything trying to kill you, you either adapt or you die. We chose to adapt. The video logs showed more evidence of human ingenuity. When their weapons ran out of ammunition, they made new bullets from scrap metal. When their food supplies were destroyed, they grew plants in their ship's waste recycling system. When their computer systems were damaged, they rewrote the software using equipment meant for completely different purposes. Every human learns. To do this, Admiral Vex asked. Every human has to, Blake replied. In our space, the universe doesn't care how strong you are. It only cares whether you're smart enough to stay alive. Captain Rex finally understood. The humans weren't stronger than Titans. They weren't more advanced. They weren't more numerous. But they had something the Titans had never needed. The absolute refusal to give up, combined with the intelligence to turn every disadvantage into an advantage. Commander Blake, Admiral Vex said slowly. What do you want from us? Blake's expression grew serious. We want you to understand, Admiral, that the galaxy is about to face challenges that can't be solved with brute force. There are threats coming that will require every species to work together. You can either learn to adapt, or watch your empire crumble when the real war begins. The lesson was complete, but the test was just beginning. The human ship's airlock opened with a soft hiss. Admiral Vex stepped inside, ducking his massive frame through the doorway built for smaller beings. Commander Blake stood waiting for him in the narrow corridor, looking tiny compared to the 12-foot Titan Admiral. Welcome aboard the UNS Defiance, Blake said simply. Vex looked around the cramped interior. Every surface was covered with equipment, spare parts, and repair patches. The ship hummed with life, not the quiet efficiency of Titan vessels, but the busy noise of a machine that was constantly being improved and maintained. Your ship is... Vex paused, searching for the right words. Different. Blake smiled. Follow me. Let me show you what a human ship really is. They walked through corridors that were half the width of Titan standard. Emergency equipment hung from every wall. Repair tools were built into the floor panels. Even the lighting system had backup power sources running through the walls. This ship is 150 years old, Blake explained as they walked. It has been destroyed and rebuilt 17 times. Every time we thought it was finished, the crew found a way to bring it back. They entered what Blake called the engineering section. To Admiral Vex, it looked like controlled chaos. Engines from different species had been connected together with cables and pipes that seemed to grow like metal vines. Nothing matched, but everything worked. How? Vex asked, staring at the impossible machine. Necessity, Blake replied. When your original engine dies in the middle of a battle, you use whatever you can find to make a new one. When that breaks, you improve it. When the improvement fails, you make it better. After a century of this, you end up with something that shouldn't work, but does. A young human female approached them. She was even smaller than Blake, barely reaching Vex's waist. Her hands were dirty with engine oil and her clothes were covered in repair patches. Admiral Vex, Blake said. Meet Chief Engineer Lisa. She's 25 years old and she's rebuilt this ship's engines 4 times. Lisa looked up at the massive Titan without fear. Admiral, your ships are impressive, but they're built to work in perfect conditions. Our ships are built to work when everything goes wrong. She led them to a workstation covered with pieces of Titan technology. Vex recognized parts from his own ships, weapons components, shield generators, computer systems. We've been studying your technology for decades, Lisa explained. Not to steal it, but to understand it. Every piece of equipment has strengths and weaknesses. When we know both, we can defeat the strengths and exploit the weaknesses. Admiral Vex felt humbled. His species had ruled the galaxy through superior technology and overwhelming force. But these humans had defeated him using his own technology against him. Blake led him to the ship's command center. Captain Rex was there, no longer trapped but sitting in a chair designed for humans. He looked uncomfortable but unharmed. Rex, Admiral Vex said, "Are you well?" "I am, sir," Rex replied. "But I've learned things that change everything." The command center was tiny compared to a Titan bridge. But every station was manned by humans who seemed to know their jobs perfectly. They worked together like parts of a single machine, each person anticipating what the others needed. "This is how we fight," Blake explained. "Not as individuals showing off our strength, but as a team where everyone's skills matter. Your warriors are powerful alone. Our crews are unstoppable together." On the main screen, they showed Admiral Vex footage from the battle, but this time he saw it from the human perspective. Their ships had moved in perfect coordination, each pilot knowing exactly what the others would do. When one ship was damaged, the other 2 immediately adjusted their tactics to protect it. "Your species fights like hunters," Blake said. "You overpower your prey through superior force. We fight like survivors. We adapt, we improvise, and we never give up." Dr. Cole's voice came over the communication system. "Admiral, you need to hear this." "I finished translating the human ship's complete database." Blake nodded. "Show him everything, Dr. Cole." The screen filled with information that made Admiral Vex's blood run cold. Star charts showing threats from beyond the galaxy. Records of contact with hostile species that made the Titans look weak. Military reports describing weapons that could destroy entire star systems. "What is this?" Vex whispered. "The real war," Blake replied seriously. "Admiral, your species has been fighting minor conflicts in one small part of the galaxy. Out there in the darkness between galaxies, there are threats that make our little battle look like children playing with toys." The data showed massive alien fleets approaching from deep space. Weapons that could crack planets in half. Ships the size of moons carrying armies that numbered in the billions. "We've been preparing for this for 2 centuries, Blake continued. "Not just humans, but dozens of other species you've never heard of. We've been building alliances, sharing technology, and learning how to fight enemies that can't be defeated by strength alone." Admiral Vex stared at the tactical displays. "How long do we have?" 5 years, maybe 10. The scout ships have already entered our galaxy. The main fleet is coming behind them. Blake activated another screen that showed the full scope of the human alliance. Hundreds of species, thousands of ships, all working together. Some were primitive by Titan standards, others were more advanced. But they all had one thing in common. They had learned to survive against impossible odds. "This is why we revealed ourselves to you," Blake explained. "The Titan Empire is powerful, but you fight like individual warriors. Against what's coming, we need to fight like a unified army. Your strength combined with our adaptability could save the galaxy." "Captain," Rex stood up from his chair. "Sir, I've seen their training programs. They don't just teach humans how to fight. They teach them how to think like their enemies, how to turn disadvantages into advantages, how to win battles they should lose." Admiral Vex looked around the small command center. These humans had defeated his mighty fleet with 3 small ships, but more importantly, they had done it without destroying anyone. They had proven their point without making enemies. "What do you want from us?" he asked Blake. "Partnership," Blake replied. "Your empire has the resources and manpower we need. We have the experience and knowledge you need. Together, we might have a chance when the real enemy arrives." On the screen, they showed Admiral Vex what human training looked like. Crews practicing repairs under combat conditions. Soldiers learning to fight in zero gravity underwater and in poisonous atmospheres. Engineers building weapons from scraps and spare parts. "This is what we offer," Blake said. "Not conquest, but survival. Not submission, but cooperation. Your warriors are brave and strong. With our training, they could become unstoppable." Admiral Vex thought about his damaged fleet, his trapped warriors, and his shattered pride. Then he thought about the threats coming from beyond the galaxy. The choice was simple: adapt or die. "Where do we begin?" he asked. Blake smiled for the first time since the battle began. "With respect, Admiral, your species has strength we need. Our species has skills you need. When we combine both, we become something neither of us could be alone." As Admiral Vex prepared to leave the human ship, he realized that the galaxy had just changed forever. The age of conquest was ending. The age of survival was about to begin. And for the first time in centuries, the Titans had found something more valuable than victory. They had found allies who could teach them how to endure.